What would Canelo Alvarez's record be against the top middleweights of the 1980s? How would he do against Tommy the Hitman Hearns, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard, and Roberto Duran? Do you guys think he would go 4-0 undefeated, 3-1, 2-2, 1-3, or do you think he would lose to them all? Now, you guys have probably already seen my video about Mike Tyson and how I think he would do against the 70s era of heavyweights and the current era of heavyweights. So I figure, why not talk about the middleweight division now? Now, me personally, I think that Canelo would split 2-2 against the 80s era of middleweights. Let me explain. Canelo versus Tommy Hearns. Now, these guys match up pretty well against each other because they're both what you call a boxer puncher. They have a similar style. Now, Hearns does have two advantages. One, he's slightly taller. He's 6'1". Canelo's 5'9". And he arguably has the best jab on this list, aside from Sugar Ray Leonard. Don't worry, I'll get to him in a second. Now, Hearn is taller, but he has a slightly smaller frame than Canelo. Canelo's just, bigger and more stockier. Now, we've seen how he fared against Marvelous Marvin Hagler, which is probably one of the best fights ever. My only concern is before Hearns can do any real damage to Canelo, would Canelo walk him down before that happens? Now, a lot of Hitman Hearns fans might get mad at me for saying this, but I think that Canelo takes Hearns into deeper waters and gets the decision over him. Marvelous Marvin Hagler versus Canelo Alvarez. Now, if you want to talk about the unstoppable force meeting the immovable logic, look no further than this fantasy match. Now, in Canelo's entire career, he's only been hurt and stunned maybe a handful of times. And in his professional career, he's never been knocked down. But I think out of everybody on this list, this is the man to do it. He's probably the only man who can hurt, stun, and maybe even stop Canelo Alvarez in his prime. Imagine Canelo fighting Triple G, but with a faster right hand. That's pretty much Marvin Hagler. Now, without a doubt, I think that Canelo does have the fundamental skills to box with Hagler, but I just don't see him hurting Hagler at all. And I think that might be the detriment if the fight goes into the later rounds. So, I'm going to give this one to Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Next up, we got Canelo Alvarez versus Roberto Duran. This is interesting because I think this will probably be the most exciting fantasy fight to watch. But Roberto Duran is what you call an inside fighter. He's not afraid to get inside and trade with you. He's not afraid to mix it up. He's not afraid to take one shot just to give you two. But the only problem with that is going up against Canelo Alvarez, would Duran's style be playing right into Canelo's hands? Would Canelo have him right where he wants? I say yes. Duran's style would pretty much work to Canelo's advantage because Canelo is a very, very underrated counterpuncher. And you can't just sit in the pocket and then expect to not take a few shots, especially from a guy who's as strong as Canelo Alvarez is on the inside. I say that Duran's only shot would be to try to either drop or finish Canelo within maybe the first 4 to 5 rounds of the fight. If that ain't happening, he ain't getting it done against Canelo. So I would give it to Canelo either outboxing him or maybe even stopping Duran in the middle round. And last but not least, Canelo Alvarez versus Sugar Ray Leonard. Now, Sugar Ray Leonard is probably the slickest guy on this list. Now, we all know what trouble he has against slick fighters. And if you saw Canelo's fight against Erislandy Lara, then you would know why this is kind of a disadvantage for Canelo Alvarez. Now, a lot of people feel like that Canelo could walk Sugar Ray Leonard down. The only difference is, would he make a mistake before that happens? Because as good as Canelo is at setting traps and getting his opponent to fight his fight, Sugar Ray Leonard is just that much better at it. The result of this one would be who gets off first and who makes the first mistake and who would capitalize off of that. A lot of people might agree with me on this one. Feel free to disagree. But I think that Sugar Ray Leonard gets the decision against Canelo. But anyway, guys, that's my thoughts. I think he goes 2-2. I think he beats Hearns and Duran, but loses to Hagler and Sugar Ray. But what do you guys think? What would his record be against these 4 guys? Also, leave it in the comments as to who you would want to see me predict next.